Okay, hello and welcome to this special edition of Prime Sports with Masatsi. We are down in Bloemfontein, and I thought since we are in town, I should go fetch this old man who's sitting next to me, Jimmy Augousti. Jimmy, thank you very much, and thanks for responding in such short notice. I think I called you 2 days ago,
Yes, yes.
and then you were kind enough to see me. The reason we felt we should touch base with you since we're in town is just to check to see how you're doing and talk the state of the nation, not politics, football. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining me, Jimmy. Maybe let's just start a little bit. As soon as I told people that I'm going to be talking to you, questions started flooding in. People were saying, "What is he doing?" Asking, "What is he doing? What's happening?" I think let's start off by saying, what keeps you busy these days?
Well, Masatsi, first of all, thank you for inviting me to your platform. I've always respected your standing as a journalist, even when I was still in the game of football. So when you called me this week and said...
never fought, ne?
We never fought. We never fought.
Yeah.
So the minute you called me this week and said, give up some of your time to come and chat about football, I said, by all means.
Yeah.
So, but to keep ourselves busy nowadays, we've always been involved in property development in Bloemfontein. It's family business. My kids are also property developers in Bloemfontein. And on the football side, we've got an under 11, under 12, under 13 team called the Bloemfontein City Football Club. And for the past 2 years, we take these boys to Europe, to Portugal, where they play friendly games against Porto Football Club, against Braga Football Club. And then they fly over to Italy to participate in one of the biggest youth tournaments in Italy. Teams of the likes of Juventus, Inter Milan, Roma, Everton from England, teams from Hungary, teams from France. And we are the only representatives from Africa at the tournament, the only African club. Last year and this year, we got knocked out in the quarterfinals, meaning we reached the last 8 teams. And in such company and such conversation with clubs and brands of the like that I've just mentioned, this is a life-changing experience for the kids. Our kids come from the dusty streets of Mangaung Township. Most of them haven't even got a passport, never mind speaking about ever being on an aeroplane. And then, well, they find themselves traveling to Europe, all expenses paid. All expenses paid. We require absolutely nothing from their parents. And we know that this is a life-changing experience and huge motivation for these kids. We are broadening the exposure that they get. We are broadening their horizons. And that's still involved in football, and there's a hell of a lot of pleasure in that and satisfaction.
So how long have you been doing this?
Well, we actually started, the first time we started was the year that COVID broke out. We were supposed to go for the first time, and then COVID came into our lives and all the international restrictions fell into place. And so we had to wait for COVID to finish by. So we've been doing this for the past 2 years, and we aim to grow it. We will be participating now in December in the IBA Cup. It's an international tournament. It's being held in Johannesburg. Bloemfontein City will be there from the 12th to the 16th at UJ. So yes, and in between we try and participate in local tournaments, but the big one for us is we gather 15 schools from Bloemfontein. We have a one-day tournament, and from there we select 15 boys, and we work with these boys for 5 months. And in June, in the school holidays, we go over to Portugal and Italy.
And one thing also that people don't know is that you work with a legend of Free State football and South African football, David Modise.
Yes.
Somebody who, in my view, has not been given the flowers that he deserves.
Yes, Masatsi, you're absolutely correct. I work with my son, Marco Augousti, who was Bloemfontein Celtic's assistant at Bloemfontein Celtic Youth. Bloemfontein City headed up our youth development for 6 years. My son Marco Augousti was his right-hand man and his assistant. So today, Marco Augousti and David Modise, the legendary, and They are the coach and the assistant coach of the academy, let's call it. And yes, I think the boys are extremely privileged to have a legend like David Modise working with them and motivating with them, and a real life example. I mean, he comes from exactly the same background as these kids come from.
So he understands.
And so he can relate to them, and they can see that, yes, we can also make it if Coach David made it, you know, in the football arena. So, yeah, very happy and proud to be working with David Modise as well.
Jimmy, let's talk a bit of the state of the game in the province.
Yes.
You know, I know we'll get to Celtic a little bit later.
It's inevitable.
It's
the
inevitable,
conversation
yeah.
will end up there.
What do you make of the state of football in the province for a while? There was no professional club. I know Maruma is here now, and you know, what do you make of what's happening in the province of football?
Well, I think the state of football in the province is very sad. Our football has really gone backwards. Let's just go back to the era of 2010 when it was the World Cup period in South Africa. Football was buzzing. Football had the attention of the public. We had two PSL clubs in the Free State, being Free State Stars and Bloemfontein Celtic. We all know what the standing of those clubs mean in those communities. Yes. They are not just fly-by-night brands or something. They've been entrenched in those communities for the last 30, 40, 50 years. These clubs have been, you know, if you want to call them community teams in a way. And if you look at it now, there's no Free State Stars, there's no Bloemfontein Celtic, there's no replacement until Marumo Gallants have stepped in here. But we've got no NFD, Motsepe Foundation League team, the National First Division team. There's no Free State team in that division. So before Marumo brought the club here this season, the highest representation we had over here is ABC Motsepe League, which is regarded as amateur football. So the state of professional football is in a bad state in the Free State. There's really not much happening in terms of football and on the professional ranks, and that trickles down to the youth as well. I mean, how do you encourage youngsters today of 16, 17, 18 years old to focus on football, that there's an opportunity for them in football, but we can't reference a point.
There's no club, yeah.
There's no club. You know, so we lose the youngsters, or they leave the province, or they get disinterested in football. So there's a whole knock-on effect that's negative in the long run with regards to the state of football in the province. There's some guys in the ABC Motsepe League that are trying, you know, the General and Mangong United and clubs like that are trying. But as far as the professional ranks are concerned, I think it's the worst it's ever been. Now you mentioned Marumo Gallants. They still have to entrench themselves here. It's not a Bloemfontein club. They come from the Limpopo, and they're based in Gauteng. Before that, it's going to take time for them to work their way into the hearts of the people. It's different to Free State Stars and Celtic. People grew up with these teams.
They're local.
It's their local clubs. It's their team. Their parents, their grandparents, they all supported these clubs, you know. Marumo Gallants is a new club. I think Dr. Abraham must be commended for bringing football to the province, because we have been crying out, you know, that we have got no professional football in the city, we've got no professional football in the province, and Dr. Abraham Sello has brought his club, Marumo Gallants. So I think on that it's got to be commended. Yeah. You know, not many clubs will pick up their team and move them to another city. So for that, you got to commend him. And the Bloemfontein public should get behind him. That's the only thing that's on the table right now.
Yeah. And if you look back, what went wrong? Obviously for both Celtic and for Free State Stars.
Well, I can't speak for how Free State Stars were run under Tate Mike Mokwena, and I can't speak for Bloemfontein Celtic, how they were run under Max Tshabalala. I think at Free State Stars, I think once Tate Mike Mokwena passed away, I'm not sure if the sons had the same passion for it. That was Mike Mokwena's baby. He started in 1986, you know, and they got promoted to the Premier League way back in '86, and they've always been a mainstay in the Premier League. But it was always Mike Mokwena was the face of Free State Stars. He was the heart and soul of Free State Stars. So maybe the sons didn't have the same passion for the club as the father did, and you know, when he had passed away, they maybe felt to let it go. On the Bloemfontein Celtic issue, well, there's a lot of things that went wrong there. You know, there was political interference in the background, you know, and that led to the sale of the club eventually. I don't think Max looked after the club very well. I don't think he put his resources into the club. I don't think people are aware of how much money a PSL club costs to run every month. So he got into the space, and then in a short space of time he ran into problems, especially financial problems, because it was for the first time you hear Bloemfontein Celtic players going on strike because they have not been paid salaries. In this modern era where we receive grants, and when I sold the club to Max, there was still a remainder of 18 months left with MTN as a sponsor. So he had a sponsor and the grant.
Yeah.
So there were no reason really
why
they could have financial problems and not paying off players. So once that starts, you've got problems in the club. You know, if your players are not happy, they must go deliver for you every Saturday.
Yeah, they're not going to do it.
If they're not going to do it, there's nobody else that's going to bring you points. And I think that's where probably problems started.
Let's go back a little bit.
Yes.
Why? I mean, at the beginning, why did you decide to go into football?
Oh, well, football.
I guess it has always been your life, but
Yes.
when I'm saying into getting into football, into running the football club,
Yes.
with all the costs and the trouble that comes with it.
Yes. So, all through my playing career, when playing football here in Bloemfontein, played for Celtic for 3 seasons, played for Bloemfontein Young Tigers in the National First Division for 5 seasons, played for Ravens in the First Division. And every off-season, you get these off-season tournaments, either in Telkom or in Kimberley or here in Bloemfontein. And I would put a team together every off-season. So I'd put the team together, I'd organize the outfits, I'd organize this, I'd organize everything, the entry fee, I'll pay for the guys, come to my house for a braai the night before we go play tournament, things like that. And for 11 years,
You did that.
I won every single tournament here in the city. You know, and that's, you know, and then there was the indoor soccer as well. We had indoor soccer arenas here, and once again, I put the teams together, and I went and found sponsors for our outfits and the tracksuits, and, you know, arranged the games. And so in my part-time, in my spare time, I was already always running a team on the side. We had the Greek community here in Bloemfontein, of which I'm a member. And we always had a Greek team from our community that we made up and played games around the country, Cape Town and Joburg, etc., against other Greek communities. So once again, I was instrumental in that. So, you know, at the age of 32, when I hung up my football boots, I said to myself, I don't want to lose contact with the game. It's either become an agent and you're still involved in the game. It's either you can become a coach and still be involved in the game. But I think if you want to still really be in the game and encompass all assets, start my own team and run my own football club. Never ever saw it as a business for money making. It was purely my passion and my first love was the football. Even at Bloemfontein Celtic, there were some months that there were many months where we had to put money in from our pockets, you know, but the satisfaction and the reward you get from that is unbelievable. So it was always part of me playing and running a team and playing and running a team until the opportunity came for me to buy Bloemfontein Celtic.
How did that come about?
So precisely that. I stopped playing at the age of 32, and I was looking at being in the game. I was looking at trying to be an agent maybe. And I got a call from Santos football club in Cape Town. They're telling me, no, you know Ntate Molemela better than us. And, you know, and that is a difficult guy. We don't want to go close to him. Won't you speak to him on our behalf? We want to buy shoes, Ledimo. There was a left winger.
Yeah, Tekano.
Tekano, yes. I think from Ventersburg.
Yeah.
Somewhere, yes.
He played for the under 23s.
The under 23s.
Yeah.
So Celtic had been relegated to the National First Division. That Kukame saga of 4 yellow cards, went to the boardroom, reduction of points, Celtic went down. Soon after that, I got the call from Cape Town, go and speak to Ntate about shoes Ledimo. Fine. I go and see Ntate Molemela and Philemon, his firstborn son. Met them together and we are talking, you know. I said, Ntate, Santos bata shoes Ledimo. And then the first question he said to me, Obata Fabogai.
Yeah, let's talk the money.
Let's talk the price, leave these other things. So during the price, going back and forth, he says to me, Jimmy, forget the player, buy my club.
Just like that?
Just like that. I couldn't believe it because Celtic was Ntate and Ntate was Celtic.
You couldn't separate it.
You couldn't separate the two, even if by force, if you try. And people that had approached him in the past to buy the team, he had put like an astronomical figure on the club to chase them away, you know. And he said to me, Jimmy, forget the player, buy my club. I looked at him, I said to him, but you want too much for your team, Ntate. He says to me, make me an offer. And that's how the whole thing started. And within 2 days, we had finalized and we were sitting at the attorneys and we signed the contract. And I took over that Saturday.
I'm interested in the offer. How much was the offer?
600,000 rand.
600,000?
600,000.
Oh, by the way, the team had been relegated.
Team had been relegated into
so it was an NFT status.
It was an NFT status. It was 2001. And by that time, the grant coming to the NFT clubs was 12,000 rand a month. That was the grant. So we agreed 600,000 rand, and I would pay the outstanding 2 months outstanding salaries that he had.
Because he had challenges.
He had challenges. So we agreed I'll settle those challenges and pay 600,000 rand, and we took over the club.
What a journey!
And what a journey! The most substantial.
Pictures of you running, wearing the big hat, and all those kinds of things.
Well, you must know I used to support Celtic as a 17-year-old white boy in 1985. It was state of emergency in South Africa. White people were not really allowed to go to the townships because it was dangerous and state of emergency. And that's when I started going to the township, because that's when the 1985 Celtic team started making waves. The Eden Katango team, Ernest Chirwali, Stockton Lize, Benjamin Reid, Ismail Mukitlane, Mike Iliwe, Ronnie Malefetse, Ambrose Mosala, that one that went on to win the Mainstay Cup against African Wanderers. So that's when I started falling in love with this team, and they used to play in the township. So off I went to the township with 20,000 people at Cesarama Bodu, and I'd be the only white guy sitting there. But the coach that time was Dave Roberts. And his assistant was Chipa Sfadi. And they liked me for some, and I was close to Chipa, and they used to let me sit next to the bench. You know, those years, there would be a lot of people sitting next to the bench on the side of the pitch. And I would be sitting there next to the pitch watching my heroes like Ernest Chirwali and Eden Katango and guys like this. So, and then later in 1993, I signed for Celtic as a player for 3 seasons until 96. So I've always had a relationship with the club. I've always been close with the club. I knew Ntate Molemela and his whole family long before I bought the club, long before I even signed for the club as a player. You know, all his kids and even most of his grandkids. So I'm proud to say I had and I still have a very, very good relationship with all the Molemela families and all the previous owners as well. There's the Action Plaikis family, and then there's the Matobisa family, and then the Mahatanya family. Now we're talking about the founders. Just the other day, Marumo Galans had an honoring occasion to honor the former owners at the Sisaramaboru Dr. Molemela Stadium, where we got all these families that I just mentioned all got together. And so, yes, it's very sad, and sad for me personally as well, and not only for the people of Bloemfontein, that Bloemfontein Celtic is, so to speak, no more. It's left a huge vacuum in the city, and also economically. There's a lot of economic spin-offs around the healthy Bloemfontein Celtic, from hotels being fully booked, guest houses, the chisanyamas, the restaurants, the bottle stores, the hair salons, the nail salons. I mean, it's an event, and especially in Bloemfontein, it was almost like a carnival atmosphere, match day. So it was all those economic spin-offs. There's a lot of people that have lost.
Survive on that.
People survive on that, Matlatsi, and that's not there anymore.
Now, just the highs and lows of being at the helm at Celtic. As we said earlier on, it was quite a journey.
Yes. Well, the highs, you look at the successes that you attain, and I think really the first one is promotion. From
taking the team back
after 3 seasons, taking it back to the Premier League. The first season we were in the National First Division, Dynamos won promotion. The second season we missed it by 1 point, Silver Stars won promotion, and then the third season we came back to the PSL. So that was an absolute huge highlight, and then that was followed up 2 years later with us winning the second trophy in the club's history, the SAA Supa 8, beat Supersport in Potchefstroom. And that was the first club, the first trophy the club had ever won was the 1985 Mainstay Cup. And we had to wait 20 years to win the second one, and that was the SAA Supa 8. Then in 2007, we won what you would call the old Iwisa Spectacular, the Telkom charity, the one-day tournament. With Cabo Zondo as the coach at the time, we won that. And then obviously the 2012 Telkom final at Moses Mabhida, where we beat Mamelodi Sundowns with Clinton Larson at the helm, who is now taken Magesi Football Club, against all odds to the final.
Against the very same Sundowns.
Against the very same Sundowns, so I'm sure you'll be hoping for the very same results, A very good relationship still with Clinton Larson, and I'm proud of the work he had done at Bloemfontein and at Bloemfontein Celtic. We gave him the opportunity, his first break as a head coach. Remember, we had recruited him from Maritzburg, where he was an assistant to Gordon Igeson, and he came here to be an assistant to Owen Nagama. And after a while, we saw the value in the man and promoted him to head coach. And he did a fantastic job for us. So yes, I would say promotion and the 3 trophies that we won were the highlights.
Lowlights?
The lowlights, obviously, football is a challenging business financially. Not all the clubs have the resources to run it as professional as they like, and to convince the private sector and all the stakeholders on board to invest into football. I think that was a challenge. And then the real low light is the political interference and, so to speak, sabotage that one experienced, which ultimately led to the family making the decision to exit football. So. And then the consequences thereof are clear for everybody to see now today.
So, I mean, the interference, was it that bad? Well, I guess it was bad because
if you get to a point where you decide it's time to pack your bags and leave the dance floor, it's not because you're having a good time anymore. you know. So for us to have reached that point, we must have really been fed up.
So was it a smooth transition, or it was quite?
No. We've always the public support and Siwelele supporters and the man on the street. We had a fantastic relationship, and we still do. But there were certain political entities in the province that wanted to hijack the club, and they have the system at their disposal. They have all the power at their disposal. And every 5 or 6 months, some or other obstacle,
Stuff will come, yeah.
some or other stuff will come. And after 9, 10 years in the PSL of this, you know, we sat down as a family and said to ourselves, this is not football anymore. This has got nothing to do with football anymore. We go to work every day, and we are managing 80% of the work that we are doing. It's got nothing to do with football. We have to manage situations to keep our entity stable. But I mean, this is not football anymore. I thought in football we are competing in the PSL against 15 other PSL clubs.
Not like football.
Not against my own government here, right in my own backyard.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's very sad. And I've never been vociferous and outspoken about the matter, but I'm also not going to lie about it.
Now, how much was Celtic worth when you let it go?
Well, Celtic was worth, in my opinion, and according to the marketing company that did a study for us, Celtic was worth about 65 million rand at the time, and we let it go for 45. So you can imagine.
And with a sponsor.
And with two running sponsors, we had MTN on the front that was still had 18 months to run, and we had B3 Funeral Parlors on the sleeve that still had 2 years to run. So all the factors were there for it to be successful, and it was very successful. But behind the scenes, there's chaos. So, you know, sooner or later you get fed up of the chaos. You know, we're not kids anymore either. You want a peace of mind as well. You know, so it was a heartbreaking decision to make. It wasn't easy. You know, when we took over Celtic, they had 12 players at training. They had 4 soccer balls at training, and they were training in an old, defunct car park where cars used to park. Like a piece of gravel. 12 players. They didn't even have a set of jerseys, Matlatsi. And when we left them and we built them up, as I just told you, we fought to come out of the National First Division. You know yourself, the conditions, they are not easy.
Yeah.
We came out. We survived Operation Dribble 2. We were under investigation for like many other clubs and many other team owners. They came here. We got the team promoted. We got Vodacom as a sponsor. We got MTN as a sponsor. We got B3 as a sleeve sponsor. Never before the club had such prestige. Our stadiums, I mean, for home games, we were even out supporting the great Kaizer Chiefs and great Orlando Pirates. We were filling our stadiums when they couldn't.
That's Siwelele Park.
You know, at Siwelele Park, we took over an empty piece of land. The municipality gave us a piece of municipal ground, and we spent 9 million rand putting up facilities there: artificial football pitches, lawn football pitches, a rehabilitation gym, and the offices of the club. This was all handed all over in the package to the new owner.
And they destroyed it.
The proof is in the pudding. The evidence is in black and white. I mean, 9 million, the facilities, Siwelele Park, you had 24 million rand a year sponsorship on the front of the jersey. You had 3 million rand a year from the sleeve. You've got 30 million rand coming in from the PSL in the form of a grant. That's why we never had any problems. You never heard of Celtic players' salaries non-paid. players not being paid their dues, their accommodation not being paid. There were never any negativity around Celtic when it came to us meeting our financial obligations. We had built the platform, we had built the brand together with the supporters. We became attractive to sponsorships. That fund that comes in is solely for the club, to sustain the club. We sold Eric Matoho, Tawa, Molomowandao. We sold Eric to Kaiser Chiefs for 6 million rand, Masatsi. I took 70,000 rand for myself. The 5.9 million, we put it back into the team. And that's when we signed Bosisel Ursud, Nathan Paulson, Michael Kaile, Tembile Kanono, and we revitalized the team because we had just come out of a relegation scenario where we were almost caught. We were caught in a relegation fight. And I promised myself and the supporters, Celtic will never find themselves in this position under my leadership again. So we sold Eric Matoho because he wanted to leave. He wanted to go to Chiefs. We agreed on the price, which was 6 million. And 5.9 million rand of that 6 million went straight back into the club. So, and a year or two later, we'll end up winning the Telkom Cup in Durban. And we never finished lower than the top 6 for the last 6 seasons that we owned the club. So Celtic was really on a good platform. It was the talk of the country. It was everybody's favorite second team, you know. So it took work, it took dedication, it took sacrifice, and it took money. So when the sponsorships come in, we never took the money and bought cars and houses and things like that. We met our financial obligation. We went out and we started paying for players, not just signing out of contract or loan players. I mean, we paid for Nathan Paulson to come back from Sweden. We bought Tembile Kanono from Dr. Koza. We bought Tlompokekana and Siasima Hoa from Supersport.
And by the way, Siaklompo is somewhere around here.
I thought he would be. I thought he would be. So never before had Celtic been on that level. They were actually purchasing players from these top teams like Sundowns and Pirates and Supersport United. So it's very, very sad for us. It's still sad for us, but never say never, and we're not out forever.
Well, I think as we're going to start wrapping up now, it leads to my question to say, you are sort of, out of football, but do you have got an appetite of coming back and maybe, we see you as a chairman in the PSL again?
Masatsi, never say never when it comes to me and football. I love it so much. It's my first passion, my biggest passion.
Yeah.
And if the opportunity presents itself for the right conditions, definitely look at it.
What's your view on this thing of buying status and moving the clubs around and,
Masatsi, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because you've also got to take many factors into consideration. But, let's take, I don't know, who do you want to take for an example? Any team that was sold. Let's take Bloemfontein Celtic. Max Tshabalala had the club in his hands. He got to a point where it was tight for him. He even called a supporters meeting where he went to address the supporters. And he openly confessed to them that, look, people, I've got problems. I've run into money problems. I don't have the funds to continue. Anybody want to come forth and buy it? I'm giving the Free State and Bloemfontein people the first option. This went on for quite a while. There was nobody forthcoming. Obviously, the more time goes by, the more this guy is pressed. So what do you do in a case like that? He decides to sell the club. There's somebody from Durban, as we know, Mamchize, who says, I'll buy it, but then I'm moving it and I'm changing the name. The man can't sustain it any longer. It's not going to survive for much longer under his circumstances. It's a private business. It's a private entity. It's a private company that owns this club. He is free to sell it and move it. That's on the one side. On the other side, I think it's killing our heritage in football.
I mean, Celtic is no longer there, Swallows is no longer there, Vets is no longer there.
Morocco, Witbank Black Aces is no longer there. You know, these teams are our heritage teams, like Bush Bucks, you know, African Wanderers. You know, these teams are our heritage. You know, we still have those clubs today. Free State Stars, another one. You know, Real Rovers, Mawele Ring, Real Rovers.
Real Stars is a lot.
Real Stars, Dynamos.
Yeah.
You know, that it was a team that you could identify with from the region. You know, like overseas. You know, if you go to the city of London, you'll see the people of London only support London clubs. Somebody might say Chelsea, Arsenal, West Ham, but you hardly find people in London say, I support Man United in another city. You know, if you go to Durban, it should be everybody in Durban supporting AmaZulu, for example. Everybody in Cape Town should be supporting Cape Town City. Everybody in Mpumalanga should be supporting TS Galaxy. That's the community and the people of that region's connection to that team. So when we take this away and we change the names, you get these new clubs that have come in of late. I'm not against them or their owners, but there's no history, there's no connection, there's no roots. And I think in South African football, we are losing some of our heritage. Yes.
Now, just to get back on the issue of when Max said the club was available to the highest bidder, did you guys, as the family, as the family?
No, this was in 2017. It was only 3 years after we had sold the club. So at that stage, we had no interest to come back.
All right.
At that stage, no, we were not there. No, we were not there. Yes.
All right. I said we are wrapping up. I'm gonna ask quick fire questions now. Some of the best players that you worked with here at Celtic.
Sure, there were many. There were many Matlatsi, but you know, Letlono Losiema, Siabonga Nkosi, Moses Pandil, Timothy Batabaire, Patrick Tingem. I think those are some of the stalwarts that we can talk about. There were many others, as I say. There were plenty. Clenboy Taibos. These guys played 10. Jury Marai. John Maduka himself, who is today a coach. You know, there were many players. Collins Tshabalala from Collins, the striker from Toyando. Yes. He went to Pirates afterwards. Inas Ngwepe. We gave Ilyas Ngwepe his PSL debut at the age of 28. He was playing for Petersburg Pillars in the National First Division. He was 28 years old. He was still playing in NFD in Ngwepe. When we saw him and identified him, we signed him at Celtic, then went to Sundowns.
He ended up at Sundowns, yeah.
So there were many, amongst others. Those were some of the big names I remember.
And the highest player in terms of money that you sold?
Eric Matoho, Monomowanda Tower. Yes. And the second highest was Thabo Ntete to Sundowns. Yeah.
I guess those ones that pay the big dollar.
Yeah. Well,
roughly, I mean, if from the top of your head, if you think in terms of just transfers, how much money did you make? I mean, I know some money goes back to the club, but in terms of dealings.
Yeah, well, I've never calculated that. I've never worked it out.
You know, but people to come and mug you.
It's all finished by now.
Oh yeah, well, it's a long time ago.
We've spent it by now. No, but those were some of the biggest transfers that we did. Yeah, with those two, Monomowanda for 6 million and Tete for 4.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy. Last question. Just we have seen that the Molemela is no longer with us now, and I know you're very close to the old Topi. Just the memories of the man and you know, the contribution that he made into. I know he has been honored and that kind of thing, but just from a personal perspective, what he meant to you and to the people of this project.
Well, I met Ntate Molemela in 1985. I started going to Celtic games in the township. And then obviously you get to know who's the owner. Everybody used to call him Whitehead at the time, you know. But a fiery character, full of passion, stubborn man, difficult guy. But, you know, once you have walked in somebody's shoes, you realize their pain. And well, as I said, I was a supporter of Bloemfontein Celtic. I was a player, then I was an owner of Celtic, and I'm a former owner of the club. And I had met Ntate and his family all through the years, and I had a very, very good relationship with Ntate Molemela. We never had a problem, not even once. And I think the sacrifice, I don't think people realize how much he must sacrifice. And he was in an era where football wasn't commercialized. There was no such thing as a sponsor in football. That was just for Chiefs and Pirates. Nobody else had sponsors in the league. And I don't even think they had substantial sponsorships either, you know. And yet he was in a construction business. He had to build a house in the township, wait to sell that house, get the money from that house, pay players, you know. And once you're in those shoes, you realize that it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. We don't do it for the money. Football clubs don't really make big money. That's a misconception, you know, especially with the kind of money that players are earning today and the expenses that are involved around a club. The 2.5 million rand grant a month can never. It's nothing.
If you're in Joburg, we're going to Cape Town and Durban.
The grant is finished. So now I'll always have fond memories for Ntate Molemela. That's why when we bought the club from him, we honored him by making him the lifetime president. That no one could be bigger than him at the club. He's the lifetime president, and nobody can take that away. Just to honor the man for what he has done, you know. So from the Augousti family, we thank Ntate Molemela, and we are proud of our association with Ntate Molemela for what he did for Bloemfontein Celtic and for the city.
Jimmy, thank you very much. I know I ambushed you. Nice chat about the state of football in the province.
Yes, thank you.
The turnaround was very quick, but we pulled it off. Thank you very much. And I wish you well. I hope Bloemfontein
City
FC will be somewhere in the professional ranks in the future, in the days to come. And who knows? As you say, you'll never say never.
Never say never.
Maybe you may come back as these days is presidents, president of Celtic or whatever the case may be. But yeah, thank you very much. And also, we just wanted to say also from our side that you have also made a massive contribution to football in South Africa. I don't remember a player complained that they were paid late under your chairmanship. That goes a long way. In a sport where you say that the money is quite tight, But thank you very much, and that's how our discussion with Jimmy Augousti went. We hope you'll enjoy it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Thank you very much.